Well, it's good to see everyone. My apologies for that. Hopefully the power and internet hold out for all of us long enough.
I hope so.
So welcome to the Town of Halifax Finance Committee meeting. It is Monday, November 30th, 2020. The time is now 6:13 p.m. On tonight's agenda, we have budgets, reorganization of committee and succession planning, acceptance of minutes, reserve fund transfers, correspondence, public participation, calendar, and as may arise. So first up under budgets, I know Charlie sent us along a really cool overview from him and Sandy, and I don't know which one of you wants to speak a little.
For me, Sandy should not take any blame for the numbers that are in there. Because we just ran out of time and I worked on it during the commission. So,
yeah.
So I'm sending it to Gordon and to the chief. I didn't know who was going to be here. I looked at the numbers and said, well, this is awful rosy. And then, but I also then went back and said, why would it be rosy? Well, we now every, just the 2.5% increase that we get every year is over $400,000. In addition, even though if it's low, we've got an increase because of new growth. And when I talked to Holly, it's about $50,000. It's very low. It almost always goes up, but even starting at that point, it's $50,000. And even aside from the 303 that we usually leave on the table, we also left about $125,000 on the table, unused for FY21. So as much as, when I came down with a number, and I've already put in some increases due to health insurance and the retirement system, for having 500,000 above and beyond the 303 isn't unreasonable. And this includes a slight decrease in local aid. It doesn't include any real change in local receipts. But what it says to me is a level service budget certainly is within the realm of possibility. I mean, the 500,000 can disappear very quickly. In that, if you have a payroll of $10 million between the elementary school and the town, okay, 2% just for steps or something like that, boom, $200,000 disappear. Now you're down to 300. Assume you're gonna have to send somebody to Silver Lake, one way or the other. And you start saying, oh, well, we've only got a couple 100,000 or 250,000 or whatever left. So, but it's a level service budget in the sense of we should be able to, setting aside additional positions, change new programs or anything like that, and setting aside a general across the board wage increase for the moment, we're within our bounds. We can do this. And the reason are, the local receipts are maintaining, obviously aside from the food, from the sales tax, but we don't rely on that for the operating budget. And the state numbers, they cratered on the food sales tax, but while they've dipped in a couple of places, overall, they're not in as bad shape as anybody would have thought. So, if I was doing a budget message, that's what I would say is, again, it's a level service budget. We'll take another, it's only the end of November. We don't know what the state's going to say for fiscal 22. We don't know how long, if we're going to run into another shutdown, which really doesn't change our numbers that much, but changes the state's numbers and maybe the local aid numbers, which is one of the reasons for at least dropping the unrestricted but not Chapter 78 by 5%. But that's not material. It's about $45,000 to $50,000 in a $25 million budget. So that would be my message. I mean, that's not, maybe you all would have a different message, but there shouldn't be anybody panicking. There's nobody, we don't have to go around chopping things off at this point. I don't see a good reason to add, given how uncertain things are. And also maybe just philosophically to say, maybe this is a year we have to hold our own, wait, see what happens, and see where everything ends up floating. I mean, where we are today, November 30th, is going to be different where we are, let's say 6 months on May 30th. It will be very different where we are November 30th of 2021, I hope certainly. So it may just be prudent to say, if we can do what we're doing right now, great, let's do that. And if things turn out much better, hey, that's great. But we'll wait until, I know it sounds weird, but wait until 2023 and then take our measure and figure out, is there anything we should be changing in providing services? So but Sandy's going to need to vet these numbers. I need to go back over numbers, with everybody else here. But that's my, was my first stab. And looking at it, I can justify where I am. That's it.
Thanks, Charlie. Sandy and or Bill or anyone else who maybe has an idea, do we know, I know the conversation for FY21 about capital projects was to try to fit whatever we could within reason, because we didn't know what FY22 would look like. Does anyone who's been watching the capital discussions have any idea if there's any like big ticket items that folks are thinking about for FY22 or FY23?
I'm not aware.
Other than highway, well, we know the police cruisers, would we get another couple of police cruisers? That's 100,000, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember whether highway had anything big, but I know that they might be coming back looking for that sweeper now that they've had a couple of years of using the contractor, figuring out how much that was going to cost the town.
Yeah.
That could be one of the things they'll come back for. Anything you can think of, Bill?
I'm trying to remember if the backhoe got approved or not.
Oh, no, they did not get the backhoe.
So
So
that
that
may
would be
come back up.
something.
It went too.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then,
that was 150,000.
yep, and then road repairs.
Right. Right. Road repairs we would have been hoping to increase the amount from 150, but each year we end up not being able to do it. We'll have to wait and see how this year, how the requests come in. I don't know. I have a feeling we won't be seeing anything from fire, I'm thinking. But I don't know about anyone else. So, and really the big departments, fire, police, highway. I think that's about it, right?
What I would put a caveat on all that is we may end up with less free cash than we've had in the last few years, especially because we're going to have COVID expenses that, unless things change radically down in DC, we're not going to get reimbursed for starting on December 30th. So any programs such as a testing program, any that we're running internally, as an example, any additional equipment and supply expenses, all that is going to, in essence, come out free cash, because at the end of the day, unless we use the free cash to offset those expenditures, it's going to come out of the raise and appropriate. It's going to be taken off the top.
Right.
So that's going to, in essence, get the first steps. We don't know how much money that's going to be yet. We're hoping to obviously do very well with the Plymouth Cares money. But the thing on that is it has to be spent, bill it, check in hand, the vendor by December 30th.
Yep.
So if we're running a program in February, that, like I said, unless things change, we're going to take, we'll end up taking that money out of free cash.
When do we start for the next year's town meeting, the stuff that we have not yet voted on at town meeting? When do we start, putting out, like, the fiscal year 22, I guess, expenses? When do we start putting together those articles?
Well, that's what I tried sending out as a starting point earlier this afternoon, is basically to say, okay, if we just use the FY21 numbers, where are we? Which is that we have some money available to spend, and then you look at and say, where would we normally be spending money? So for instance, health insurance will have an increase, retirement will have an increase. We'll have people have increases in their steps, so their pay rates and their payroll will increase. And so you start chopping away at what you see as sort of a surplus. And that disappears fairly quickly once you start adding everything up. We won't have budgets. This is part of the discussion we're having right now. We won't have budgets until early January. The idea here is to be talking about this tonight, get a budget message sent out with the budgets forms, and we'll get the budgets back to you all, probably not the first week of January, but soon after that.
Mhm. And we usually ask for any article requests around the same time. So we want the departments to start thinking about it now and get us, by January, get us any requests for large ticket items.
Just on this fiscal year, I just wanted to make everybody aware that the Halifax Elementary voted to continue the 3 long-term teaching positions in the building sub and the maintenance, well, not maintenance custodian, but the long-term, well,
The additional.
the
custodian.
additional custodian for the remainder of the school year. So if we can't find the money within the budget, I had talked to Charlie, and because we had declared a state of emergency, that we could deficit spend if necessary, if we can't move the money at the special
Okay.
meeting in May.
So I have submitted all of my balance sheets and all of the information to the state. I have not heard back from them. I'm hoping to hear from them in the next couple of weeks, which would give me the free cash figure. Because we didn't spend a ton of money the end of the last fiscal year, we were fairly conservative. I had told everyone, just hold your horses or wait, let's see what's going on. I'm thinking we'll have a healthy free cash number, about at least what we had last year, if not more. And if we do have that, that gives us something to sort of have as a backup in case some of these expenses don't get paid for by the Plymouth County COVID money, the CARES money. We do not like to use free cash numbers for operating expenses.
Right.
But in this case, something like those substitutes, that's not a regular operating item in my mind, because it's an emergency situation. So that would be something that we would be able to look at.
Just because this is the first budget season, we'll deal with this now too, having disbanded wage and personnel. Charlie, are we in the Board of Selectmen going to have the open meeting, or what would function like the open meeting that we used to have in January?
Yeah, I need to get that arranged.
Okay.
Excuse me, everybody, Tom here. As far as wage and personnel, we never really came up with a complete plan. Am I correct?
You got a skeleton, you don't have the individual, or everything that you probably need to fill that skeleton out.
Okay, I just, after we did that, we never really discussed any framework or exactly how that was going to operate. I think maybe we should have a little discussion about it.
Yes.
Not here, but in the future.
And Charlie, is there any way to push that wage and personnel meeting to maybe the beginning of February, where we'll get, no?
I will look at the bylaw. Even
All
with
right.
the Wage and Personnel Board, there were dates, I think, this is where, we can play around a little bit in a sense that you can open the meeting and simply say, okay, we're now continuing the meeting for a month, for instance.
All right.
Example.
I'm just thinking in January, where we're just getting in the budgets and we're still sort of up in the air where everything is.
Yeah.
It might be better to try to do that a little later.
Let's see. So, well, in fact, you can, let me look at the revision here. Because the old one said that as long as we did it by the end of January, it wasn't the first week of January, but it was the last business day of January. It was okay. Yeah, right now, Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee or the board and committees designates shall hold a public hearing no later than the last business day in January, in which all persons shall be entitled to be heard. They have to be 2 weeks prior to the public hearing in order to be considered at the annual town meeting. So proposed amendments or requests must be submitted 2 weeks prior. So if we said, so last business day in January is the 29th, you know, we could have it. I mean, I don't think we're going to have a meeting on Friday. I mean, and obviously we're going to do it via Zoom. But that last week in January, we could hold a meeting, and then the week of the 11th could be the deadline for submitting.
Okay.
But, you know, but there's nothing saying that we can tell people, look, here's what's going to happen. Submit everything by the second week of January, the week of the 11th. We will formally open the hearing. I'll make it up, you know, on the 25th. But you should know we're going to have a 1-minute meeting, and we're going to adjourn the meeting and continue it to this date in February to allow for more time so we can see where the budget is, see where the town's finances are, maybe spend, you know, if we can get the amendments in, to be able to have staff do more research on the amendments so that we can have a more comprehensive conversation on those.
That would work.
Yep.
That sounds good. Anybody else have anything else on budgets that they want to bring up?
Just other than I need something official to come, you know, we're going to send a budget letter out with the budgets in early December. So I need to give people some clue as to what they should be sending back in. Should they be sending a level service budget in, for instance, or something else?
So should we take a vote then as a finance committee on a recommendation for the direction that we think should be provided to the department heads?
Yes, please.
Well, I'll put forth, or I would entertain a motion for the finance committee to recommend the submission of level service budgets for FY22 from all departments.
Second.
All right, so is that, so Tom then moved it, so then would someone else like to second, and then we can have a conversation?
Oh, so moved too.
Second.
All right, moved in second. Awesome. Thank you, folks. So how does everyone feel about providing that direction to departments, the idea of a level service? So for folks that are new, level funding would be making people adhere to the dollar amounts that they were using for the previous fiscal year. Level service says provide the exact same programs, the same number of hours, etc. The dollar amounts may be different, but you're not providing anything that you weren't providing previously, and you're not cutting any programs or services.
Got it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other conversation or any other questions anyone has?
Charlie, if I could just ask a question. I know things like, I'm just wondering how much seasonality is in the numbers that we're seeing, because some have really healthy balances that may stick, and others like insurance. I know most of the insurance is paid in the first quarter. So that number is really high. Is there any sort of back-ended seasonality in the numbers as I go through and learn the budget? Is there anything that sort of pops in the fourth quarter?
I'm thinking here in terms of, there may be I have to check when the debt payments are, so individual debt payments.
Okay.
But yeah, for the most part, I mean, Sandy and I had to spend a lot of time early this, late spring, early summer, doing the 1/12 budgets. And Sandy, I may be wrong, but I don't remember anything. There certainly wasn't anything material that that was going to be showing up in May and June rather than in July and August. We were very, as you pointed out, very much front loaded rather than back.
Yeah.
Right, which they sort of required. The one thing, like the Silver Lake assessment, that's split up into 4 payments. So that's $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million. So that at the end of the year, we still have to have that money there. I'm trying to think.
But that one's straight line, so you can, it's coming. It's that kind of thing. Okay, right. So other than uncertains, pretty much, if I want to understand the budget, other than uncertain events, snowstorms and plow bills and things like that, it's pretty much straight line from here on out. sort of a
I would
112.
say, yeah, except
Yeah.
as Charlie said, the debt payments, we do have,
Yeah.
the debt payments, and I'm trying to remember when the, school debt will be due. I think that's later in the year, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks.
What you say is what you
All right, so remember that the motion that we have, we've moved and seconded that the finance committee should recommend that departments submit level service budgets for FY22. So I'll take a roll call vote now for those who approve. Cheryl,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
Drew,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
myself, Melinda, I. So Charlie, the finance committee unanimously recommends the level service budget from departments for FY22. Okay. Next up, reorganization of committee and succession planning. So we had been sort of talking about this for the last couple meetings. Linda helpfully took all of the liaison assignments or the liaison positions and put them into a potential arrangement. So as the new folks, I think we talked about a little bit during your interviews, but member of the finance committee acts as a liaison to usually multiple departments, talks with them about their budget process, acts as a point of contact for them, is not their advocate or their defender in meetings, but rather you're there to maybe clarify questions we have, to interact with that department head, and it ends up really facilitating conversations that we have here about the budgets. There are certain departments that have sort of a heavier lift than others, depending on the size of their budget, the size of their, how things like that. What we've tried to do in the past is, as new folks, onboard onto the committee, we tend to give them the assignments or the departments that, all the town hall departments, we call them, right? All the offices that sort of reside in town hall. They usually have the smallest expense accounts. So you're usually dealing with more minor changes, usually not big ticket capital items, anything like that with them. Being that we have Lauren and Tom as sort of brand new folks, and Drew, you've gone through, I believe, a full cycle or almost a full budget cycle now. We still don't want to overwhelm anyone who's getting their feet under them. And as we mentioned, there are some departments that do have a little bit more intensity behind them when it comes to meetings and things like that. So what I'm going to do is, if Linda's okay with this, Linda, do you mind if I let people sort of read through this potential arrangement? I'll read out loud now for the meeting, but then I'll also circulate this list, and maybe we can just sit with it until the next meeting and people can sort of see how they feel about this arrangement. How does that sound to everybody?
Okay.
Sure.
So we could have, let's say 3 new folks, right? And, it's not an offensive term or anything like that. I mean, we're just trying to give the folks who are the most recent additions committees that make sense for them. We can have one new person who does Halifax and Lights, Holidays in Halifax, the Housing Authority, Youth and Recreation, and Weights and Measures. Again, town hall, quote unquote, departments that have pretty small expenses and things like that. Another new person could take Historic Commission, Historic District, Parks, the Veterans Agent, and the Library. That would leave the third new person could shadow or help split the load of one of the other veteran members, which would be Cheryl, Fred, Bill, and myself, especially on those departments that maybe have a heavier lift. So we could leave that one as sort of the floater, or someone who maybe has an interest in particular departments could shadow that person and split the load for that. That would leave, and I'll just use the current assignments, right, for sort of frame of reference. Fred had the 2 school committees. Bill had water recycling, highway, cemetery, and capital planning. And I had council on aging, building committee, police, fire, dog officer, and civil defense or emergency management. Folks who have committees now, So for example, that sort of split up what Cheryl and I think Drew had last year in terms of the town hall departments. Folks who have assignments now, so Fred, Bill, and I guess myself, does anyone have particular feelings about holding on to certain things or not holding on to certain things?
I'm okay with the ones you've highlighted to offload from me. So that would leave capital planning, cemetery, highway, recycling, and water.
I definitely feel like I should volunteer for something since I'm not sure I really did any of those last year. I don't know. What do? We just sort of like be an interface with the finance committee, just like meet new people and.
Yeah, so what we've done is usually after the budget come back to us from the departments, so that's what Charlie was talking about, that budget submission in the first week or so of January. Then the liaisons reach out to the departments and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm going to be your finance committee liaison. I'm here to answer any questions if you have, or, help you find any information that you need to find. Usually we have either phone or, obviously this year we won't be in-person meetings, but have meetings with those department heads, even just a quick phone call and touch base about, like I said, questions that they might have. If you look at their budget sheets, Sandy make sure that we get electronic copies of everyone's budgets. If you see a particular item on there, like a new request, right? That's something that you can reach out to the department head about and say, hey, look, I see that that you need this. Can we talk a little bit about that? Can you give me some more information? So when this comes up in the finance committee, I can answer people's questions. Again, and I want to stress, you're not that person's advocate, right? You're not supposed to be arguing on their behalf. You're there to clarify. And when we're in committee, when the finance committee is meeting, if we say, hey, why did this uniform budget go up so much in this department? If you're the liaison, you've had that conversation, you can say, oh, well, it's because there's new, standards that have to meet accreditation and we need these new uniform parts, blah, 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 right? So that's an example. You're not there to say to argue on behalf of it or anything. That's ultimately going to be the job of the department head, because we do bring each of those department heads into the finance committee and also let them talk about their budget with us directly. So as I said, those town hall committees.
Do I get to keep those?
Well, that's the thing. So Cheryl, how would you feel about either you could break off, you could take like half of those town hall departments, and we could give half to maybe Drew.
Okay.
And then perhaps have like Lauren and Tom shadowing to like either Bill and Fred, or Fred and I, or Bill, however we want to work it out. And that would let the two newest members, Tom and Lauren, that would let you folks see some of the bigger budgets, but not the same kind of weight of having to be the primary liaison.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll take it.
I'm good either way. Either staffing one of you guys on a bigger budget or taking a small one. I think staffing is and shadowing is probably the fastest way up the learning curve.
Yeah.
I'll keep half.
Okay. So, Lauren, do you feel okay about that? The idea of shadowing a couple, like maybe one or two of us who have some of the bigger departments?
Yeah, whatever's most helpful. I don't have a preference, so whatever works.
All right. So Cheryl and Drew, I guess, turn to you two next. Are you two okay with splitting the town hall departments?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Oh, it's fine for me.
Okay. And then Bill and Fred, would you be okay with keeping the committee assignments that you had, or the liaison positions you had last budget cycle, but then being able to have Tom and Lauren helping out with the lifting?
Yeah, no problem.
Bill, you're okay with that too?
You're muted, Bill.
Oh, sorry, Bill, I don't think your mic's on.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
There you are. No, you're not.
Sorry, I can't get back to Zoom for some reason, but I figured out how to get to the mute button.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, great.
So will Linda break them down for Drew and I?
Yeah, so I think, so what we can do here is take this, the chart that Linda came up with, because I have one person with like I said before, Halifax and Lights, Holidays in Halifax, Housing, Youth and Rec and Weights and Measures, and the other person with Historic Commission, Historic District, Parks, Veterans Agent, and Library. That would take the town, that would split up the town departments. Do either of you have a preference of those two groups?
I'm not
Okay,
sure I do just half of them.
Yeah. So what about accountant appeals, board assessors, board of health? Where are we going with those?
Oh, that's right. These aren't. I messed up.
I think so. So the only one in the one that I gave you, the only one that would have come out under what was Cheryl was Sealer of Weights and Measures to just put with Holidays in Halifax, Halifax and Lights, Housing Authority, and Youth and Rec.
Right.
I mean, you certainly could. It just depends on how you want to do it. That was just a suggestion of some easier departments to give to a newer person. But if you're going to shadow people, then
yeah,
maybe you leave things alone. I don't know. That's up to you guys. I can certainly put together another scenario and put it out there. And ahead of the next meeting, you guys can look at a couple different scenarios and then take a vote on that.
Maybe we should do that because I think that might tie into the next item too about sort of committee reorganization and planning for, you know, however many people we're going to have on the committee. I think it might be good for us, and I'll help you with this too, Linda. We can bring a couple different options to the next meeting. You know, if we have a 7-person board, if we have a 6-person board, and then we can have them all laid out in front of us. We can attach them to the posting too, and we can take a vote then. Does everyone feel okay about that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, we'll still be out in front of getting the budgets back from the department, so that should be okay. Like I said, that ties into the other part of this line item, which is succession planning. So as I mentioned, I think the last time we chatted, it's good to be thinking about potential leadership positions. So as you mentioned, the executive board of the finance committee has the chairperson, the vice chairperson, and the clerk. I'm sorry. I know we have sort of a range of levels of experience, but I think it's also helpful to start thinking about if folks are interested in stepping into new positions, or if have questions about particular positions for the folks who hold those positions now. I want to set aside a little bit of time during our meeting for anyone to bring those things up. Because right now we have a full board, but that, you know, people roll on and off for different reasons, life happens. So I want to ensure that we can have some stability with the executive board at least. Does anyone have any, I guess, questions about the roles and responsibilities of any of those positions or have any interest?
Hopefully you're going to stay on as chairperson.
Well, that's what I want to be able to have a plan in place so that we can easily and efficiently fill vacancies if they happen and not cause any, you know, major
disruption.
Yeah.
Cheryl, Melinda's not smiling enough to give away that she's resigning anytime soon.
I hope not.
I just want to make sure that we're set and that we're all in a good position, no matter how many folks we end up having. We're gonna have at least 4, right? If people want to take a little bit of time with this, that's fine. You can also think about this. So I don't mean to keep punting on it. I just want to give folks enough time. Or if you want to reach out to me with any questions, you're more than welcome. But I think probably soon, maybe when we vote on the liaison shifts, we should probably also take a vote on the executive committee and leadership positions. That sound okay?
Okay. That was good.
Okay. All right, reserve fund transfers.
We do not have any.
Nice. Correspondence.
Only what you saw from Charlie that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the memo about the budget. Okay, awesome. Public participation. Any members of the public have any comments or questions for us? Okay, calendar. Charlie, do you think that you're going to have the budgets due probably like January 8th. That's a Friday. I mean, like in that week.
Oh, yeah, at the end of that week. Sandy, do you think that's reasonable? Not earlier?
Pardon me,
than-
Charlie? What do you think?
I'm sorry, Sandy.
Yeah, you
What did
just
you
hard to
say?
hear, Charlie.
I'm missing.
I have the budget sheets ready to go out.
Yeah. Well, so do we want to do the 8th?
Sure.
In the request going out, can we ask them to specify if there's any COVID charges that they anticipate for the FY22 budget as well?
That would make sense.
Oh, good idea.
Mhm.
May not know. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, we're gonna probably need to be doing something on July 1st. Not that specific day, but it's not gonna be done by then, I suspect.
So in terms of looking at the calendar, our next, if we kept to the every other schedule, our next meeting would be Monday, December 14th, and then Monday, December 28th. That's not, I mean, we could also, like, alternatively, if we wanted to keep things as away from like the new year and such, we could also do December 7th and 21st. I don't know if anyone has preferences.
Doesn't matter to me.
I would prefer the 7th and the 21st, to be honest. I mean, I'm at the last 2 weeks of the year.
Mhm.
So I'd rather burn that first Monday instead of the second one. But
Yep.
that's just cool.
That would also,
Those are fine too.
all right, it would keep us off of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
So does Monday, December 7th and Monday, December 21st sound okay for everybody?
Yeah, those are fine. Sounds good to
Yeah,
me.
Sure.
Melinda? Melinda?
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, hi. This is kind of at the 11th hour, but I just wanted to just mention that because I heard you talking about assignments earlier and recycling was one of them. Recycling could end up being a little more of a project this year because we're going to take it on because we're having some serious difficulties with it.
Okay.
So that might end up being a little more involved than it might ordinarily be. So just giving you a heads up.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful to know. Okay, so we'll do the 7th and the 21st. On the December 7th agenda, Linda, can we please add the bill for the Association of Town Finance Committee annual meeting?
Sure.
We'll take a vote on that because I think those of us who attended just billed to the town. So I know I got my individual bill. I don't know, Sandy, if you got copies too.
I got mine too.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else under as may arise? All right. I would.
Melinda, I think you guys actually, you have to still accept the meeting minutes from 11/16.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you that you so kindly put together, which we appreciate. And I'm sorry that I missed them. All right. I would entertain. So we have the meeting minutes. Thanks to Linda from Monday, 11/16/20. The members present were Cheryl, Fred, myself, Melinda, Tom, Lauren, and Drew. So as a reminder, the folks that are there are allowed to vote on the meeting minutes. They were the ones that were attached to the email about tonight's meeting. So I would entertain a motion for us to accept the meeting minutes from Monday, November 16th, 2020.
I make motion to accept meeting minutes from 11/21.
Awesome. Do we have a second?
Okay. Second.
Great. Any discussion? Okay, for all those in favor, I'll roll call us. Lauren,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Aye.
If that was Bill, I abstain.
Drew,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
myself, Melinda, aye. Awesome. All right. Don't think I missed anything else, hopefully. Anything else under as may arise, everybody?
Mm.
Alrighty. I would then entertain a motion for us to adjourn at 6:53 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded and lightning speed. Again, I'll roll call us out for all those in favor of adjournment. Lauren,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Aye.
and myself, Melinda. Aye. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. It's great to see you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Yep.
Have a
Thank
good
Good
night.
night.
you. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.